For a long time I thought I had it all, a decent job, a good apartment, and a best friend who lived right next door. Her name was Lila. We met on our first day at the company, and to be honest, it felt like fate. Not only did we work in the same department, but we also lived just 2 floors apart. What started as casual chats in the elevator quickly turned into lunch breaks, happy hours, shopping sprees, and Sunday morning coffees in our pajamas. We clicked so naturally. Lila was funny, witty, sharp with her words. She always had some story to tell, usually about people we both knew. Sometimes it was just harmless gossip, other times it felt more pointed. She'd lean in closer at lunch and whisper something scandalous about one of our coworkers, like how Janet from HR was apparently cheating on her husband, or how Marcus, our quiet IT guy, was supposedly spying on people's emails. First, I didn't think much of it. Office gossip is practically part of the culture, right? I figured most of it was exaggerated or just made up to pass time. I even shared a few personal things with her. My fears, frustrations, my ambitions. She was like a sister to me. We used to joke that we'd run the company together one day. We'd roll our eyes at the suits in the corner offices and say, someday they'll all be answering to us. But somewhere along the way things began to shift. Little things. Quiet glances. Muted conversations when I walked into the break room. Colleagues who once laughed with me suddenly grew distant. I brushed it off. Maybe they were going through something. Maybe I was just overthinking it. I had no idea then that the person I trusted most was the one pulling every string behind my back. I don't know exactly when the shift started, but I remember the first time it really hit me. It was during our regular team meeting. I brought up an idea I'd been working on for weeks, something that could really improve client communication. Normally, the team would at least entertain it, maybe ask a few questions. But that day, crickets. A couple people exchanged glances, and someone even stifled a chuckle. My manager barely looked at me. He gave a polite nod and quickly moved on. After the meeting, I caught up with Lila in the hallway. I asked if I'd said something wrong, if I missed something. She shrugged it off with a smile and said, "Nah, don't take it personally. People are just stressed lately. You know how it is." Then she looped her arm around mine and changed the subject. Started talking about some intern who was allegedly dating the CFO's nephew. It was so easy to believe her. After all, she was my person. But the weird moments kept piling up. One day, I walked into the break room and it went dead silent. 2 coworkers suddenly stopped talking and stared down at their coffee cups like they'd been caught doing something they shouldn't. Another day, I overheard my name in a hushed conversation between 2 people I barely interacted with. They didn't see me, but one of them muttered, "I thought she was better than that." Better than what? Still, I convinced myself it was paranoia. Office politics. Maybe I'd unknowingly rubbed someone the wrong way. I even asked Lila again about it once. She put her hand over mine and said, "Honestly, people can be jealous. You're doing well and not everyone likes that. Keep your head up." I clung to that like a lifeline. Then the job posting came out. A mid-management position, better salary, more responsibility. A promotion I had been quietly working toward for over a year. 4 of us applied. Me, Lila, and 2 others. We all congratulated each other, wished each other luck. Lila even brought over a bottle of wine that night, and we toasted to friendly competition. But deep down, something was beginning to gnaw at me. I just didn't know how rotten everything underneath really was. From the moment the promotion process began, things started to spiral. Slowly at first, like a leak you don't notice until the whole floor's flooded. First it was just subtle stuff. My manager started nitpicking my reports. A minor typo in a slide deck turned into a full lecture about professionalism. I was blindsided. I'd never had issues with him before. In fact, my last performance review was glowing. Then it escalated. I got called into a meeting where my team lead said there were concerns about my attitude. That I had been dismissive in meetings. That I was sharing inappropriate gossip about coworkers. I was stunned. What gossip? I wasn't even talking to people much lately. I mostly stuck to Lila. I tried to defend myself, but their faces were set. Like they had already decided who I was. Like someone had painted this whole other version of me, and no matter what I said, they believed that version instead. After the meeting, I went straight to Lila. I was visibly shaken. I told her everything, how confused and embarrassed I felt, how I didn't understand where all this was coming from. She hugged me, held my hand, said things like, "That's so unfair. And you're one of the most professional people I know." She even made a joke about how someone in management probably felt threatened by me. I felt a little better. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it would blow over. But it didn't. More complaints started stacking up, false ones, missed deadlines that weren't mine, inappropriate remarks I never said. One day, someone filed a report saying I had broken protocol during a client call. That one nearly broke me because I wasn't even on that call. And every time I confided in Lila, she was there, saying exactly what I needed to hear, calming me down, reassuring me, like a best friend would. Then, just 2 days before the promotion decision was supposed to be announced, I was called into HR. They said I was being put on notice. One more incident and I'd be let go. I left that office in tears, heart racing, hands shaking. I sat in my car for almost an hour trying to breathe. And that night, when I told Lila through trembling words what had happened, she pulled me into her arms and whispered, "This place doesn't deserve you anyway." She was right. But for reasons I never imagined. A week later I was fired. It happened so quickly it barely felt real. They cited behavioral issues, confidentiality breaches, and continued disregard for company standards. It read like a stranger's file, not mine. I sat there in the HR office, blinking at the words like they'd been printed in another language. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But mostly I wanted answers. I asked them to be specific. What standards? What breach? Who had complained? But they just shook their heads, said the decision was final. Final. Just like that, years of work gone. I packed up my things in silence. Some coworkers came by and offered awkward goodbyes. A few avoided eye contact altogether. The only one who hugged me, who cried and whispered, "This is so wrong," was Lila. Of course it was her. Always her. Always by my side. That night I collapsed onto my couch and just stared at the ceiling. I'd been working at that company for years. Built relationships, sacrificed weekends, hit every target they gave me. And now my reputation was wrecked. No references. No explanations. Just an ugly, empty goodbye. Lila came over later with takeout and wine. She told me to look at it as a fresh start. Said maybe this was a sign. A blessing in disguise. I tried to believe her. I needed to believe someone. And to her credit, I did bounce back quickly. I threw myself into job hunting, revamped my resume, and landed an interview at a smaller but promising firm. The position was a step up from what I had before. More responsibility, better pay, better culture. They hired me on the spot after my second interview. I couldn't believe my luck. I even started to think maybe Lila was right. Then I ran into one of the other women who had applied for the same promotion back at my old job. Her name was Maya. She looked drained. We grabbed coffee and sat in the corner of a quiet little cafe. And that's when she told me she had been fired too. Different reasons, same setup, weird complaints, mysterious issues, false reports, cold shoulders from coworkers, and then boom, terminated. Another girl, Jenna, had been demoted. Also over something that made no sense. A task she hadn't even been responsible for. I felt the blood drain from my face. 3 women. All targeted. All discredited. And Lila? She got the promotion. Maya and I sat in stunned silence after she told me her story. It mirrored mine in so many uncomfortable ways. The same pattern of accusations, isolation, subtle sabotage, like a script. A blueprint. I asked her if she had any idea who was behind it. She hesitated. Then she leaned in and said quietly, "I think it was someone on the inside. Someone who knew our weaknesses. Or could invent them." And suddenly, like a curtain being yanked back, everything I had ignored started flooding into view. Lila. She had access to all our personal lives. She knew things no one else did. She knew when I had a bad day and might snap at a comment. She knew Maya had struggled with anxiety last year. She knew Jenna was trying to juggle work while caring for a sick parent. All things that could be twisted, taken out of context, weaponized. She was the common thread. And somehow the one who came out on top. I didn't want to believe it. I hated believing it. But my gut screamed at me. This wasn't a coincidence. Later that week I messaged Jenna. We hadn't talked since I was fired, but she responded instantly. She was just as confused and bitter. We agreed to meet, And the three of us, me, Maya, and Jenna, sat down with notebooks and pieced together the timeline. Each of us had noticed odd behavior from Lila. Stories she told us in confidence about each other that didn't line up. Things she claimed people said behind our backs that now felt suspicious. And worst of all, none of us had ever told anyone else what she told us about the others. Which meant she had made it all up. Fabricated drama, dropped poison seeds, and stood back to watch it bloom. I don't know what her endgame had been originally, maybe just the satisfaction of control. But when the promotion came around, she saw her chance. And she made damn sure we were out of her way. She played us, Jenna muttered, staring at her coffee. All of us. We sat there, the weight of betrayal hanging over our heads like a storm cloud. Then Maya looked up with a dangerous calm in her eyes. She wants to play games? She said. Fine. Let's give her one. By the time we met again, the shock had turned into something else. Cold, calculating focus. We weren't just going to sit with this. We were going to expose her. Maya had a plan. And it was brilliant. We knew Lila couldn't resist gossip. It was her lifeblood. Her social currency. Her weapon. And like anyone addicted to control, she liked to think she was smarter than everyone else. That she was untouchable. So we decided to hand her exactly what she loved most. Juicy, damaging secrets. Fake ones. Each of us would reach out to her individually, casually like old friends just catching up, and confide something in her. Something personal, something loaded. But false. I went first. I messaged her saying I was still struggling emotionally, that my new job was rocky, and, here's the bait, I might be drinking during work hours to cope. Maya told her she was thinking of suing our old company for wrongful termination, but was terrified she had accidentally signed something that would invalidate the claim. Jenna? She said she'd gotten access to old HR emails and found dirt on the promotion process, enough to bury someone if it came out. We fed the lies over the course of a week, all separately. Never overlapping. Never giving a hint we were in touch. We even threw in details that would make the gossip irresistible. Names, dates, hints of scandal. Then we waited. And just like clockwork, whispers started. I heard from a mutual friend that someone had told her I had a serious alcohol problem, and that I was spiraling. Maya's name started popping up on legal gossip forums, with people speculating about a coming lawsuit. Jenna got a call from a former coworker asking if she'd really hacked HR. Lila had taken the bait. All of it. And just like she always did, she spread it like wildfire. But this time we had proof. Because every single message we sent to her was from a new phone number, with a hidden recorder app installed. Every single call was logged. Every reply she gave was saved. And in one particularly juicy recording, Lila giggled and said, I swear I don't even have to make things up anymore. They're all just self-destructing. Boom. When we played that recording back, Lila's smug voice laughing about how we were self-destructing, I felt something inside me crack wide open. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was rage. All this time she had pretended to care. Held my hand when I cried. Whispered comforting words while pulling strings behind the curtain like a puppet master. And now here she was practically bragging about it. We had what we needed. But we weren't done. Not yet. This wasn't going to be a quiet confrontation or some mild, we know what you did drama. No. We were going to let her destroy herself. So we carefully curated one final trap. Something so tempting, so loaded, that she wouldn't be able to resist. We created a fake email chain using burner accounts, pretending to be a whistleblower inside the new company I worked for. The emails hinted that I had been hired without proper vetting, that I was emotionally unstable, and that I might be leaking sensitive client data. The cherry on top? We accidentally forwarded the chain to Lila, via a shared contact we knew she still spoke to regularly. The subject line was bait enough. FYI, you didn't hear this from me. And sure enough, 2 days later my boss called me in. He looked concerned but calm. We've been hearing some strange things, he said. But something about it didn't sit right. So we traced the origin. He slid his laptop across the desk. On the screen was the forwarded message, with Lila's name on it. She'd added her own little twist before sharing it with one of my current coworkers. Called me unstable, said I'd lied about my termination from the previous job, and accused me of lashing out in dangerous ways. I smiled. Because we'd set up the fake chain on purpose. Because I had already told my boss about the situation in vague terms, enough to plant suspicion but not enough to make it obvious. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "This woman tried to sabotage your career. We're not just ignoring this. We're documenting everything." And just like that, her web started unraveling. Once my current company confirmed Lila's involvement in the fake allegations, they didn't just brush it off. They went full corporate sleuth. Turns out she hadn't just sent that email to one coworker. She'd forwarded it to two, one of whom worked in compliance. And when compliance noticed the suspicious format and phrasing, they did their own digging. They found the burner accounts, traced the timing, cross-referenced metadata. It all pointed back to her. Meanwhile, Maya, remember the one Lila claimed was planning to sue? Reached out to her old manager for a chat. She slipped in a few fake details about legal options and confidentiality breaches. Within a day, that company's legal team was spinning too. Especially when Maya conveniently dropped the name of someone who'd allegedly been spreading sensitive internal rumors. Guess who? Lila's name started showing up in emails. Not because we mentioned her directly, oh no. We let the evidence speak. We let the companies put the puzzle together. And they did. By the end of the week, Lila was called into a meeting with senior leadership at our former workplace. We didn't know exactly what was said, but we knew the aftermath. She went quiet, vanished from Slack, stopped posting motivational quotes on LinkedIn. Then came the final blow. Jenna had a friend in marketing, someone still inside the company. She told us that an anonymous complaint had made its way to HR. Attached were audio clips, screenshots, message logs, even a transcript of the recorded phone call, where Lila boasted about manipulating people for the promotion. All the things we had collected. But here's the kicker. The company didn't just investigate her. They launched a full internal review of how the promotion was handled. Suddenly, execs were worried about wrongful terminations, lawsuits, reputation damage. In other words, panic mode. Within 2 weeks, Lila was asked to resign. No party. No farewell email. No glowing LinkedIn goodbye post. Just gone. She tried to do it quietly. But the office isn't a quiet place. People noticed. People talked. And this time she was the subject of all the whispers. Karma didn't just tap her on the shoulder. It dragged her by the hair through the mud. The fallout from Lila's resignation was fast, chaotic, and strangely satisfying to watch. From a safe distance, of course. People who had once clung to her every word suddenly acted like they'd never liked her in the first place. It was like watching rats flee a sinking ship. The office rumor mill churned harder than ever. Only this time Lila was the headline. She manipulated HR. She planted evidence. She sabotaged 3 women for a job. I didn't even have to say a word. The evidence spoke louder than any accusation ever could. But what stunned me most were the people who reached out privately. Former coworkers who had ignored me, whispered behind my back, or flat out treated me like I was contagious. They messaged me with apologies, said they had no idea what was really going on, and maybe they didn't. Or maybe it was easier to believe the worst about someone when the story was spoon-fed by a charming manipulator. Either way, I didn't waste time holding grudges. I had moved on and up. Meanwhile, Maya got a personal apology from her old manager, and Jenna? HR quietly offered her a restructured opportunity, aka a guilt-ridden promotion and bonus to keep her from suing. But the best part? Lila tried to land a new job almost immediately. She sent out resumes, updated her LinkedIn, started posting again about resilience and fresh starts. Unfortunately for her, our little trap had reached farther than expected. The company she applied to? One of my new company's partners. Guess who got a call asking, "Hey, you used to work with this person, any thoughts?" I kept it professional. I just said, I'd be very careful. There were some serious issues with trust and internal sabotage. That was all it took. Application withdrawn. Ghosted. Blacklisted. Maybe. I'll never know for sure. But what I do know is she wasn't getting glowing references anymore. And finally, for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt at peace. Even after her quiet departure and failed job hunt, we weren't quite done. Sure, Lila had lost her promotion, her job, and her credibility, But that felt like justice. What we wanted next was closure. The kind that makes you sleep better at night. The kind that sends a message. You don't get to ruin people's lives and walk away untouched. That's when Jenna had a wild but brilliant idea. We decided to hit her exactly where it hurt. Her ego. Lila had always positioned herself as the smart one. The connected one. The one who knew everything before anyone else. She loved being in the loop. Having the inside scoop. She needed to be wanted in every room. So we created one. A fake networking group. We named it Women in Power Private Circle. A made-up invite-only group for ambitious women in corporate leadership. We built a website, polished the language, even added fake testimonials from high-level members. Then we sent Lila a sleek invitation through a burner email. Congratulations! You've been nominated anonymously for Women in Power's quarterly cohort. We only accept 15 applicants per cycle. We believe your story is one of resilience and leadership. It was pure bait. And she took it. Within hours she replied, gushing about how honored she felt and how she'd been through so much professionally but kept pushing forward. We crafted a whole onboarding process. Asked her to fill out a detailed questionnaire with career highlights and setbacks. She told us everything. Even dropped names of people she claimed had tried to hold her back. Some of those names? Ours. It was sickening but also confirming. In her own words, she framed herself as the victim. Twisted every event into a hero's journey. Conveniently leaving out the lies, sabotage, and destroyed careers she left behind. When we asked her to record a 90-second intro video for the group launch, she delivered a dramatic monologue about rising through adversity and overcoming betrayal. She even thanked the lessons her past had taught her. We were in awe. Not of her. Of her delusion. That video? We never posted it. But we did keep it. Along with every message, every self-important quote, every red flag she proudly waved. Because we weren't just collecting receipts anymore. We were building her mirror. With everything we'd gathered, her lies, her boasts, her manipulations, we decided it was time for the final act. We created a private, invite-only online group. Not the fake Women in Power site, but a real space where former colleagues and others she tried to sabotage could come together and share their stories. We named it The Truth About Lila. Inside we posted transcripts, audio clips, screenshots, and detailed accounts from those she'd hurt. Every lie she told, every rumor she spread, every career she ruined. It was like peeling back the layers of a poison apple. We invited people carefully, making sure the group stayed closed to outsiders but large enough to spread the truth quietly. Soon it became a safe place, a kind of anonymous support group for those who'd suffered from office politics and betrayal. And the best part? Lila had no idea it existed. But word traveled. And as whispers about her true nature spread, it started to affect her attempts at rebuilding her career. One day, I received a message from an old mutual acquaintance who had run into her at a networking event. She looked so lost, they said. Like the mask slipped for a moment. People were whispering. You could see it in her eyes. It was poetic justice. The woman who thrived on control and secrecy was now haunted by the shadows she left behind. We hadn't just exposed her. We'd made sure she couldn't hide. Just when I thought we had closed the chapter on Lila's chaos, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, out of the blue, I received a message from Lila herself. The tone was oddly humble, almost desperate. She claimed she wanted to meet. No accusations, no manipulation, just to talk. I was torn. Part of me wanted to slam the door shut and never look back. But another part of me was curious. What could she possibly say after everything? We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe. When I saw her, she looked worn down, the confident spark in her eyes replaced by exhaustion. She apologized. Not just the vague corporate speak kind, but a real heartfelt apology. She admitted to what she'd done, said she'd been driven by insecurity and fear of failure, that the promotion was everything to her because she felt invisible otherwise. She confessed she didn't expect to hurt anyone so deeply, least of all me. It wasn't easy to hear. Years of friendship and betrayal tangled in a single conversation. I asked her why she hadn't come clean sooner. She shrugged, ashamed. Said she was afraid no one would believe her or forgive her. The moment was raw, complicated, and honestly exhausting. But it was a start. I didn't know if I could ever fully trust her again. Maybe I never would. But I realized holding on to pure hatred would only poison me. So, I told her I appreciated her honesty, but I needed time and distance. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Some wounds take time to heal. After that meeting with Lila, I felt an odd mix of relief and sadness. It was like ripping off a scab, painful but necessary. I focused on myself more than ever. I rebuilt my confidence, leaned on Maya and Jenna, and threw myself into my new job. The team there was supportive, and I finally felt like I belonged somewhere. Work no longer felt like a battlefield. I wasn't constantly looking over my shoulder or second-guessing every interaction. I started to open up again cautiously, made new friends, reconnected with some old ones. I even started volunteering for a mentorship program, helping younger women navigate office politics and recognize toxic relationships early. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's that trust is precious but fragile. And sometimes the people you think are your closest allies can be your biggest enemies. But healing means moving forward, not backward. Looking back, this whole nightmare taught me lessons I never expected. First, not everyone who shares your secrets is truly your friend. Trust is earned, and sometimes it needs to be given cautiously, even to those closest to you. Second, gossip is a weapon, and people use it to hurt, control, and manipulate. Standing silent or ignoring it won't make it go away. You have to recognize it, confront it, and protect yourself. Third, your reputation is precious, but it's not invincible. It can be attacked, but it can also be rebuilt. And sometimes when you rebuild it with the right people by your side, it becomes stronger than before. Finally, revenge isn't just about payback. It's about reclaiming your power. Not everyone gets closure or justice, but we made sure to take back control of our stories. If you're reading this and feeling betrayed or isolated at work, please know you're not alone. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away, regroup, and fight back with your head held high. Today, I'm in a better place, both professionally and personally. I've learned to listen to my instincts, to value the people who genuinely support me, and to never underestimate the power of standing up for yourself. Lila's betrayal still stings sometimes, but it no longer defines me. Instead, it's a reminder of my resilience, of how I survived something that could have broken me. I'm grateful for Maya, Jenna, and everyone who stood with me. We turned a nightmare into a story of strength and justice, one that I hope others can learn from. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: choose your friends wisely, trust cautiously, and never let anyone else write your story for you. Thanks for watching. A woman who lost a friend but found herself.